Hi there! In this screencast we will see how we can investigate and improve performance issues in a .NET or a .NET Core application using dotTrace. Let's dive in! There are a couple of places where we can start profiling our projects. dotTrace integrates with Visual Studio as well as JetBrains Writer. In Visual Studio we can start profiling from the menu here and then profile our startup configuration. In Writer, we can select our run configuration and then profile it from the toolbar here. But let's skip the IDE for now and use the standalone version. From the dotTrace home, we can attach to an already running application. We can launch and profile a local application on our computer or profile a remote application running on a server somewhere. Let's profile a local application. We can work with pretty much any .NET and .NET Core application type. Standalone executables, web apps hosted in IIS or IIS Express, Windows services, and so on. There are a few ways to profile applications. There's sampling, tracing, line by line, and timeline. Sampling comes in handy when looking for performance issues in our applications for the first time. Tracing and line by line are more detailed in the data they collect, but they do add a little bit more performance overhead to the application being profiled. The timeline profiling type is similar to sampling, but it also collects additional data about application events distributed over time. This makes it easier to investigate UI freezes, garbage collection issues, thread starvation, and so on. Ticking the Advanced checkbox reveals some additional options, for example for setting environment variables or using the Profiler API from our code. Let's start profiling with sampling mode. dotTrace will launch our application as well as a profiling controller. This little tool window lets us start and stop the profiler and capture a snapshot for analysis. While the profiler is attached, we can reproduce a particular scenario in our application that we want to investigate. Once that is done, we can take a snapshot and analyze it. The snapshot will be opened in the Performance viewer, and we can look at the Overview tab. The Overview will display a summary of the snapshot we just captured. dotTrace shows us the user code hotspots, which are good candidates to start an investigation. We can also see the various subsystems that were used and how much time was spent in each of them. Under All Calls, we can see more details. We can navigate through the snapshot by thread, showing a tree of all threads and the functions executed on them. The red arrows lead us along the path where most work was done. dotTrace also lets us view the source code for the selected methods. The call tree will show us the different root function calls and their child calls. The plain list shows us all functions and their execution time, the number of calls that were made, and so on. Hotspots will show us the functions where most time was spent, similar to what we saw in the overview screen earlier, but this time in more detail. These are typically the functions that we want to investigate because they were marked as consuming most time in the snapshot. We can also estimate what the effect would be of optimizing a specific method call. We can adjust its time or hide it altogether. And when we adjust our code, we can also compare snapshots to look at the differences in call timings. This is a great way to verify if a performance fix actually improved performance of the application. Do check the help and tutorials section here in dotTrace. It contains lots of great resources and learning material. Also check the web help and our website, of course. Thank you for watching and see you next time.